All right, I think the recording is on. This is lesson two of the Power Apps saga. This is, I believe, session five of Zero to Hero. And in this run, we are talking about Power Apps straight. But what I have done in the last session and plan on doing here today as well is to talk about the broader picture, I guess, when it comes to app development. Not only the app itself, but then we're going to be looking at what drives the process of building an app. How and when someone comes to that conclusion of we need to build an app to fix this particular issue. Okay, so last Tuesday or day before yesterday, sorry, we talked about digital transformation as a whole, what's included in digital transformation, the human part of digital transformation, not only at the upper management level, but also with the professionals involved in each scenario, and us included as developers, being it pro developers, citizen developers, how we can best contribute to digital transformation and also how we can benefit from this wave of new opportunities. Okay, so today we'll be talking about power canvas apps versus model driven apps, but I will also take a step back and then show all kinds of possibilities when it comes to um, creating applications, if you will, or solutions using Power Platform tools. All right, so let me start presenting here and situate where I'm at. All right. Okay, so this is lesson two. It's gonna be a showdown between Canvas and model-driven apps. Again, some concepts in the forefront, and then we'll showcase how to build one versus the other. We may not get into in-depth definition of what each component does and whatnot, but we'll talk about basic concepts and some of the building blocks when building one type of application versus the other. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about today is there are multiple ways for us to collect data through UI in Power Platform. So Canvas apps and model-driven apps are not the only two ways that we can collect data. You can collect data using Power Platform components through Microsoft Forms. I use that a lot for registration forms for my courses. You can use Excel Online both as a data source as well as a front end to collect data and do other stuff with it. You can use Power Automate RPA to record how a user collect data in legacy systems and then push that data onto Power Platform, different data sources through Power Platform to different data sources. You can use Power Pages, maybe my favorite subject within Power Platform, to collect data. And then finally, you can use model-driven apps and Canvas apps. Now, because you have multiple ways of collecting data within a Power Platform or through an UI experience within Power Platform, it's important for you to assess all of them so that you can provide the best solution to your customers based on what they can pay. Okay. So I classify this particular stage of a project as trying to assess the multiple ways of handling incoming data in Power Platform. Maybe you work in a project where the company has have had already massive amounts of data that you needed to control how to expose and also how to update or collect more data in conjunction to what already exists. So the picture here is to illustrate those scenarios where there's a massive load of information out there that we need to collect and we don't know how to best do it. Okay, so the first one that I use, or the first proposal that I use, and I use it myself, your emails, your registration emails through these courses were handled through your registration rather was handled through Microsoft Forms and Power Automate. Okay, we took the data from Forms, processed the data using Power Automate, put it into a Dataverse database so we can know more about you and then communicate with you with the exclusive information we'll send um, through the Dataverse database. But I use Microsoft Forms and Power Automate. You may ask me, why, Victor, you didn't build a Power Pages website? Why didn't you create an app and make the app available to the community? I didn't have the time to do that. And also, if I were to use Power Pages, I would have to pay for that website to be up. And I didn't have the cash to do that. So Forms did the job. We process the information quickly. We have the contact information for every single attendee that has registered, and we can engage with them for future activities. So you need to know again um, what tools you have in your tool belt to best assess and use, come up with solutions. Okay. Another way to do this is Excel Online. A lot of companies already have Excel. They place the file on OneDrive, and then you can tap into Excel Online and trigger Power Automate flows when new lines are created or information is adjusted. So that is another way to handle these types of scenarios using a solution that won't cost much to your customer. Okay. One other way to bring data into data sources through Power Platform is Power Pages. Like I said, this one's my favorite. I do a lot of talks on Power Pages, but this particular scenario requires a Dataverse database. So Power Pages runs on top of Dataverse, whatever you built for Dataverse, and we'll talk about it here in the next slide. Whatever you build there can be exposed through Power Pages. Okay, but this is an experience. This is the technology that's used to surface Dataverse information or collect information that will be placed in Dataverse through a web experience. So if you need to expose this to the web and you have multiple forms and you need to control access, Power Pages may be a solution for you. All right, model-driven app. So model-driven app, as the name suggests, and I'll extend a bit more for folks who don't come from an IT background. This whole thing about XXXX driven apps, what that means is that you are starting from that particular subject and you create an application driven by that particular practice. So when I say I'm going to develop a .NET application, and this one's going to be task driven. What I mean is that I will create a bunch of any unit tests, and the development of my application will progress based on the tasks that I created. So if I have a screen that will catalog user information, I will design the tests that require to validate that particular screen before I code the screen. So the whole thing about blah, blah, blah driven apps means that you are driving your development based on that particular prefix. So model driven apps, as the name suggests, it implies that you're creating a model, you are creating a database before you create your app. And for folks who came from the IT background, it would be similar for you to say, let's draft a database design or an ERD, an entity relation diagram, give it to the DBA, to a professional that understands about database, and let's have that particular DBA design the database first, and then we'll create the app. Now, with this technology, model-driven apps are built on top of a technology called Dataverse. Dataverse is a mix of database, application, service, integration layer, if you will, all in one box. So as you build your database, you are actually creating assets to build an application. And again, we'll see those there as we track along. So you create the model, and then the model drives the development of your application. We don't have a whole lot of flexibility on the way that things look, but you still have an application nonetheless, okay? And then last but not least, we have Canvas apps. As the name suggests, Canvas is really a blank canvas for you to be the artist in that particular painting or application. Microsoft does provide wizards that allows you to start from somewhere other than a blank screen or a blank canvas, but you have the flexibility of making this application look the way you want. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that one is easier to work. When we say no code and low code applications, we are not implying that this is an effortless type of job. Okay. There is work to be done, there is an effort to be put at play for any of the examples that I did here. It may be less effort than you would apply on regular software development, but there is still an effort in building these applications. Okay. So the cool thing about Canvas apps is that the way you build it and the features that you use, you're not using hardcore code like JavaScript or C Sharp or and whatnot. You're using formula-based commands, and usually the formulas are very intuitive. So the wizard will give you the directive as to where each part of your logic should go. So in a sense, you're being helped while building your application. Okay, Canvas apps, you are the artist. You gotta the app will look as inspired as you are, I should say, but you have room to make it look really nice. Model driven apps, you have a framed workplace, if you will. There isn't much that can be done there, but you get an application that's fully functional. All right. All right, Canvas apps versus model-driven apps. And we have some uh, good professionals here in the chat. So if there is anything that you want to add to this discussion, be my guest, okay? Anything that I may have left out that you think it's important to chime in, raise your hand, unmute your mic, and then speak up, okay? So Canvas app versus model-driven app. If your customer is if the requirements your customers are providing are heavily on the way that the app looks and components and things like that, I would say go Canvas apps because you have a lot more flexibility in building the app yourself. If the concern from your customer is app development velocity, model driven apps is your best friend. You know, as you build the model, your application is pretty much done for you. And again, we'll have a look at that shortly here. Now, one other factor that may implicate in deciding which technology you should use is the database or the data source that this app needs to consume. Okay, on the Canvas app side, you have a number of connectors available for that particular Canvas app. So I'll take a pause here and just show you, if my PowerPoint lets me, show you what I am talking about. So if we go to, let's go to the web here real quick, and we place this link and you scroll down this page, I'll make this available on the slide deck when I send it to you. You see the number of connectors that are available for Power Apps. And you see the scroll bar moving very slowly here on this one. It's just to illustrate the amount of connectors that are available today for Power Apps. So if you already know that your app needs to be connected to SQL Server and Oracle and SharePoint and all of those things, Canvas apps will do the job for you. Okay? So I didn't count, and every time I try to put a number on my slide deck for a number of connectors, I have to update it because this
I
number
think
changes almost every
I
day.
I think it's over 8,000. I think
Yeah.
8,000.
So it's a lot of connectors, and there are some
Yes.
open. I call them open-ended connectors. Sorry about that. Let me stop this execution here. Which are connectors that you can use to connect to other technologies or other systems. But there you have it. You have a lot of connectors for Canvas apps. Okay, majority of connectors are available also for Power Automate. Okay, but you have those there.
Almost.
Now, when it comes to model-driven app, there is one single data source that is directly connected to model-driven apps, and that is Dataverse. Okay, and I will make this statement with a star at the end. Even though model-driven app runs on top of Dataverse, and that is essentially the connector that you have available or data source, there is a push from Microsoft to extend the capabilities of Dataverse in connecting to other data sources. So what that is a technology called virtual tables. So today you could connect a Dataverse or a model-driven app through Dataverse to a SQL Server database or SharePoint. Okay. Now, if you know how to code in C Sharp, you can also create your own connector and connect to Dataverse as well. All right. Cool thing about it is that once you have that virtual table connector set up, the data surfaces in the model driven app as if it was part of Dataverse. So for folks who are experienced with Dataverse, all of the capabilities of searching and all of that stuff becomes available to you um, through that virtual table connector as well. Okay, so Dataverse is not completely disconnected from things, but you have this possibility of creating virtual tables. The other way Dataverse can be extended and henceforth model-driven apps can be extended to use other connectors is through Power Automate. Okay, you can get the data processed in Power Automate, push it to Dataverse. By the same token, when the data changes in Dataverse to a model-driven app, then you can push those changes to other systems using Power Automate. Okay, so it's not as seamless as Canvas apps because Canvas apps you'd be connected to that particular data source directly. You can still use Power Automate and Dataverse to connect to other systems. You're just adding another piece to the puzzle through Power Automate. All right. Now, where do these things or these two technologies kind of come together? All right. In a model driven app, you can host components built in Canvas apps. All right. You can build controls, you can build components in Canvas apps, and you can host it within a model driven app. Another way that you can do that is using a technology called custom pages. All right. So you can add a custom page is essentially an asset that you build using Power Apps technology, but Power FX and the technology, and then you can surface that particular asset that you built in the UI that you'd be already familiar, the Canvas UI. You can surface that within Power Pages. I mean, within a model-driven app. Sorry about that. So this is one area that the two technologies merge. One being controls that you build, and then surfacing those surfacing changes that you create in the Canvas designer, you can bring as a custom page. Okay. Another way that the two technologies sort of marry is the command bar for model driven apps. Okay. So the buttons that you see on a model driven app, they can be extended using JavaScript code, or they can be extended using PowerFX language, which is the language used in Canvas apps. Okay, so do we have any questions so far? Comments, concerns? I see a comment here in the chat area. All right, so yeah. Um, so the next slide that I have, it's the last one, and it is a demo. So we are going to step into each one of the two technologies, and we'll try to build as much as possible using each of the technology and show the core difference between the two. All right. Any questions so far? Comments, concerns? Anything that you'd like to see expanded and what was presented? If not, we'll keep on moving. Okay, let me go to my maker environment. I provisioned one called Zero to Hero. Yeah, this environment. Sorry, I am in the admin portal, make.powerapps.com. I actually should take a step back and ask folks, does everybody have an environment they can work on? Do you know how to provision a developer environment? Or would you like to see how to provision one?
Yeah, we got one
Uh,
already.
Somebody said something I couldn't hear. Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, we got one already.
All right, so we'll keep on tracking. So if you know what you're doing, we'll keep on moving here. All right, so this is an environment I created, just created this environment. It doesn't have much. All right, so the first thing I'll do here, I'll create a solution. If you haven't had much experience with solutions, there is a video in one of the sessions there called Solution Management. It'll be nice if you can have a look at that. So the solution I'll create is called Hero to Hero. I'll create a publisher as well. Call it Hero. Zero to Hero. Okay, that is there. Prefix is going to be Hero, and that is good to go. I said that in one of the sessions that I did before, and I'll say it again if you haven't watched it before. When I create an environment, if I am the one playing with it all the time, I make it a case to change the publisher of this solution, okay? The common data service default solution. I always change the publisher here, okay? And the reason being is because a lot of the stuff that you do, especially stuff that's on preview, stuff that's brand new, it's going to be stored in this solution, the common data service solution. And by virtue of the setup, if you don't select the publisher that you want, the objects that you create through those experiences will be prefixed with whatever this publisher originally is, right? So I'll give you an example. If I go to the main area here and I say I want to create an app or a website or Figma, an app through Figma, those assets would be created using the Common Data Service default solution, therefore the publisher of that particular solution. So if I wanted to reuse it for me or for my clients, I don't want it to show the CR8 choo underscore whatever the name of the object was. Okay, so that is first and foremost. I always replace this guy so that I don't get this prefix in my objects if I use any of the assets from this homepage. Make sense to everyone? All right, so let's go back to my own solution. So in here, I'm going to use stuff that already exists. So we are going to take the contact table. Okay. I think I had space. Contact, I'm gonna take account, and that will do it for now. So we'll add those two. Let's select some forms here. We'll add this form. We'll add this form, maybe some views. I'll do the active accounts view and the active contacts view. So those two tables are part of my solution. I could create a new table if I wanted. I don't want to do it today, but I will create a new field. So we'll go to contacts. And again, this is the exercise you would make when somebody provides you either a form or an ERD and tells you, okay, those are the elements that you need to create in your database. Okay, so this is the model that is picked up after the model-driven apps design. Okay, so we'll go to columns, and in here I'll create a new column for this contact. I'll say the column is let's see. I don't want an existing, I want a brand new one. Let's say annual salary. And forgive me if I misspelled stuff here. It's not an English class. All right. Currency. I'll say that this field is required. Save. And then again, you repeat this exercise depending on the requirements around your system. So I created a field. Currency field actually adds two fields because it needs to control currency exchange rates. So that's why you see two. The base one will store whatever the default currency of your environment is. The other one you can configure for a different currency. Okay. So I'm gonna go to the form. Then I open this form. You see that it provides you a nice designer for the form. Now I'm gonna look for my field. Your salary. It was already in your income. So we'll drag it over and say it's important that it's right here after the last name. Okay, so the new field is there. I can save. Again, notice that this particular experience doesn't give me any room to change the color of a component, to maybe make one of the labels bold and whatnot. This is model driven. I mean, there isn't much that I can do in terms of the UI except the position of the fields on the UI and maybe some functional configurations here to say, if the salary of this guy is above $1 million, request his address or something like that, depending on the business rule, okay? So we'll go back here, and now I'm gonna change a view. A view is a list that is available for us. Now I'm going to look for my salary field, drag it over, make it bigger, save. I can filter the view. I can change the order of the columns. I can change the sorting of this column. But again, I cannot change the appearance of the view itself. Okay, so I'm working with the model, but I cannot prettify the appearance of the application, if you will. Okay. So once you have created your model, we just created a field in my experience. Then I skip to designing the forms that will collect the information, and finally I change the view that will expose the information to the end users. Okay. So for folks who came from the heavy code IT background, imagine doing this using just SQL Server and .NET. I know that Visual Studio has a lot of assistance in building websites where I define the model, it kind of scans through the model and generates a bunch of screens for me, but not at this pace. We haven't spent not 5 minutes even building what I perceive to be an application. Okay. So now I'll go to apps, and then in here I'll click new app, and then we're gonna add a model driven app. All right, I'll give it a name. We'll call it 0 Hero CRM app. We'll create it. Then the first thing that the designer or the wizard will ask me is if I want to add a page. Okay. So I'll click to add a page, and then there are three options. I can add a page based on Dataverse table, dashboard, or a custom page. This custom page, I'm not sure if we'll be able to look at it today, but this is the one that you would bring things from the Canvas app side. Okay. So let's build a page using Dataverse. Now you can select one table, work on that table, and then when you're done, you can add more pages, or you can select all the tables that you already know you're going to use. So we do account, contact, and that's it for now. Okay. So here, I don't like this group one name. I can navigate to the navigation area, click on group one and say, this is going to be CRM. Okay. You notice that the navigation inherited the image icon for the table. If I wanted to change that, I can highlight the navigation area, select another icon. I could click to use one that exists, or I can click to add a new web resource of type image and use that. All right. So that's a way to customize it a little bit. I can select the top level of my app right here and change the icon that is displayed on my app. Okay, in Dataverse, you have this concept of multiple model-driven apps. So if you want your users to easily identify which app they are to use, you can put an icon here. Again, not much else you can do in terms of appearance, but that's one thing you can do. And also, though, when you download the I don't know if I have it in my phone, but if you download the Dynamics 365 app for mobile, you can use your app there. Okay, so these forms will translate well to a mobile experience using that particular Dynamics 365 for mobile application. All right, so my app is here. I have accounts, contacts. I can save, publish, and then I can go ahead and hit play, and we'll see our app working. So this is our app. I have forms if I want to create records. I can go to the contact form. Hopefully it will show the new field. I have not published that particular form, so that's why the new field is not yet showing up. But if I were to go back and publish the form, I would see the new field here. But you have a full-fledged app that you can use. I can save and close. You inherited a lot of functionalities that you don't get with Canvas. For example, well, not out of the box. I can export this data to Excel. If it's dynamic worksheet, people can make changes to the data in that Excel file and the data would be pushed here. You can create print out documents based on the data using either Excel templates or Word templates. So you can do, maybe some of you will be more familiar with the term mail merge. So you can create documents in that fashion as well. I could enable, or it's already enabled, the timeline where I can have activities associated with this particular record. Say I want to send an email to this user with this contact that I just created. I can go ahead and write up an email. And if email capabilities are enabled in this Dataverse, um, environment, an email would be sent. Cool thing is, you send an email from that particular, yeah. So there is no email address for this guy, so it's complaining about it. Let me add one. But it logged the email message here. So you have a poor man's version of a CRM that we built in a few minutes, okay? So again, going back to what I said, depending on the requirements, if your customer is heavily pushing you to have a good UI experience, you go Canvas app. But if velocity of app development is what you're looking for and using Dataverse as a data source is an option, I would go model-driven app, okay? So now let's take a look at Canvas apps. And I know I have some Jedi Power Apps developers here on the call. So if you want to chime in, let me know. But I'll go very simple on this one. So we'll go back to the apps area. I'm going to create a Canvas apps from here. Okay, let's say that this one, actually, let's do mobile. Let's do phone. So we'll start building, create a form. Let's create a gallery first. All right, it created a gallery for me. And because I created this app from Dataverse, it's already giving me the options from that Dataverse environment. Okay, so I can select this table and Microsoft will do the magic and create a gallery for me. Okay, so from here, I could say, okay, I wanted this font to be bigger, 45. Okay, I wanted this gallery to be taller. I maybe want to add an image to it. You name it, you can do it with Canvas, okay? Now, the cool thing about Canvas app is that everything that you do and how you wire, it's, in my opinion, very simple when compared to a model-driven app. Look at this notation. Say that I don't want the full name to display here. Say that I wanted the first name to display. I can tab, start typing, and there you have it. First name is up. Okay? So I don't want to email, or maybe I want to email and phone number. So now I can do concat or add another label or subtitle and add phone number to the into the mix. Okay? So let's do that. I'll copy and paste, drag this guy over. Unfortunately, I don't think I have phone number in that database. Maybe I should add to this user. I'm gonna add Leo's phone number to this. All right, and then come back. Hopefully, when I play this out, it will show the phone number. It will refresh and show the phone number. Uh,
You need to refresh the database, Victor, on the right and the left hand side. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
On the
not
two
sure if
dots.
I selected the right field either. So we'll see. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
could
think I
be that.
selected the right one. Business phone, maybe. Yeah, so it's showing now. So you see how easy it is to design. I mean, it adds more work than than model-driven app per se, but it's a lot flexible. And when I say more work is this though, we are building this gallery, whereas the model-driven app gave us this list, right? By default, it gave us this list. We didn't have to build it. So that is my point and the key difference. Now, I'm not going to extend too much into Canvas. I just want to show you one more thing, and that is more to encourage you and learn some of the skills that we will be leveraging or using in this training. Okay, one is look for information about Power FX. Okay, look for documentation about Power FX. Reason being is this though. In the past, if I needed to, let's say for example, I need to add a button here on my application that will change the status of this record. Okay, I have one status for active. Okay, the active status, but I wanted to deactivate. Okay, but I want to do this with a custom button. All right, I don't want to do this with the out of the box. Just as an example, if I have to code that with JavaScript, I would have to learn the JavaScript for it. I would have to learn the web API call for it in Dataverse, and I would have to use a tool called Ribbon Workbench to surface a button here. All right. With this hybrid conversation or this merging of Dataverse and Canvas, you can now do this. You can go to the model-driven app, and then you open your app, the model-driven app. You extend the table, and then you click, I want to edit the command bar. All right, and let's say that we wanted to show this in the main form. All right, so now I have all my buttons. You see that the out-of-the-box ones are grayed out. But in here, I want to add another button called Command, and I'll tell it to use PowerFX. And hopefully this won't take too long. All right, so this is my new button. I'll call it Set Inactive. It does exactly what the other one is doing, but I want to use PowerFX to perform this code. I can change the icon if I want, so we'll make it look nice. Let's see if there is a delete option or inactive. Yeah, let's just do it with this one. Then I'll click to open formula for the action. And then in here, I can write PowerFX commands. So I can say patch, contacts, and then the record be self dot selected dot item dot, that's it. And then the operation. The operation will be, we want to change the status, and the status of the contact will be inactive. And there's another kind of field status in Dataverse. It's called status reason that I need to set as well. So status reason dot inactive. All right. So that is my command. I am done. Now let me show you something. Okay, I'll save this. let me show you something real quick. If I wanted to do this with code, it would be similar to, okay, patch, command, web, API, Dataverse. All right, so this is a basic update. Let me get the JavaScript example. This is not what we want. This is Power Pages. It's just the push command. I don't want that. I want to show the real code. Maybe Carl D'Souza. So this is an example. That's the data that you want to push. Combination key value pair, the name of the field, the value that you want to update, the ID of the record that you have on the screen at the time, then the update command, success, or error message. Okay, this is what you have to add to a button and execute. Now you could use this JavaScript within this experience here. I chose to use PowerFX, but if you wanted to have more control of what rules are available to show or hide this button, then you'd have to use a tool called Ribbon Workbench, built by the one and only Scott Duro. But yeah, it's just a lot of code. And then if your customer says, well, I don't want to just change the data. I wanted to ask the user if they wanted to proceed with this change, right? So then you can do if, let me move this down a bit. If confirm, then you have the question. Are you sure you want to inactivate this record? Then if they say yes, you want to execute this code, all right? And let's say that I wanted to also notify this user, notify record is inactive. Okay, so I notify the user, then my if is done. I may have forgotten the confirm. Yeah, the confirm option. I think I forgot. Forgetting a parenthesis somewhere. So this is the confirm.
I think it's because the semicolon. You use semicolon, you use colon. Comma.
But I need the same column for this next command. To be part of this, the same experience. Patch. Oh, patch is gone. That is why. So patch is there. Yeah, I'm still missing somewhere one parenthesis, I think. Okay, so this closes there. This is part of the confirm. And this has its own parenthesis. This is its own update. And this is right. Yeah, I need a semicolon here for this notify. So confirm this. Come on. Let me do this way. True, else false, just to see where I'm missing. Maybe missing a parenthesis. Oh, yeah, never mind. So if this is the if, this is that, yeah. And this doesn't like single quotes. And I don't need another parenthesis. So I'm good now. And I don't need this either. All right. So now you took a lot of work that you would put on JavaScript in about 3 lines of code. Okay. So let's go back to the screen and see if our button will show up. Here's my menu bar. All right, that is my button there. Click, confirm. If I say cancel, it does nothing. If I say okay, it needs to patch it, and it's now inactive. I have a notification. All right. So I'd say learn PowerFX. I think it will help you for either Canvas and model-driven app, as it's got a lot of functionality available. So we got a question from Bullenberg. If you want to unmute yourself.
No, it's not why not congratulate your code. It's nice to see. I never saw a PowerFX running like yours. It's awesome. But my question is why can I get some codes and some types of some hints to use PowerFX in model driven or even though in Power Apps? Why did you recommend to learn, to study, to follow, to improve the skills using PowerFX?
Let me see here what we have, because there is documentation. Let me share some links. Because of course the PowerFX has a lot more features than what is available within the command bar. I hope that the idea is that as much as possible they will make it available in the two sides. And so, but yeah, so you have a list of functions: patch, create, the ifs. Node confirmation, I think, is fairly recent. Navigate works as well. So there is a list here, and I believe I don't know. It was on preview for the last little while. I don't know if they removed from preview and made it GA. It's a lot more stable than what it was. I was working on a project last year and I tried to use this because one of the common problems with model-driven app is the status changes of records. Okay, you put a lot of functionality on those status changes, and then it's a drop down, and it's super easy for a user to go to state 4 when they should go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I was trying to remove the status from the screen and add buttons, and then the buttons would change as the user transition in the life cycle for that particular record. And I was getting problems. But I tested again beginning of this week, and it's working fine. So we are rolling live with it in a project. So hopefully it's not going to break later on. But yeah, there's this page. I can put it on. Yeah, I put it on the chat window. I can put it on the slide deck as well for you. But yeah, this in my opinion, it's a lot better than doing the JavaScript side of things. Now, maybe two more things about PowerFX, because we only have 2 minutes and I have another meeting shortly here. There is a new column type in Dataverse called calculated column that uses PowerFX as well. Okay, so in the past you had a calculated column in the days of Dynamics 365 that the formula was very hard to write, and you didn't have the flexibility of patching and creating records and all that. So calculated columns will use PowerFX. And then the other area, well, I maybe should stay here. Yeah, there will be other areas of the platform that will use PowerFX. So areas that requires heavy code will transition to PowerFX in the future. So, I mean, I'm not advocating one type of development versus the other. I'm rather saying learn the two about the two worlds, and then based on the requirements from your customers, uh, try to decide which one will be less painful for you to implement. Okay, that's all I have for Canvas versus model-driven app today. Next week on Tuesday, we have Chris Huntingford. He will probably talk more about data design of the data design part of an application. And then we'll go from there. We'll transition to more app design and app development as we advance in the program. Okay. I hope this was good for everyone, and we'll see you next week. Okay. Take care.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Victor. See you
Thanks,
next
Victor.
time.
Victor. Bye bye.
See you.
Thank you, Victor.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
See you next
Thank
time.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Victor.